What up, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Full Metal Analysis. Brad Holmes addressed the media today, man, and we're gonna see if we can break down this roller coaster ride of of emotional things that Brad was trying to convey. Um, I was real interested to see what Brad what Brad had to say, and he came out and he was real apologetic, and I was like, okay, this is gonna go real good. And immediately he flipped and started saying and started saying things like we're gonna do the same thing but he tried to keep him apologetic. It's just like I don't know, man. He was flipping back and forth between apologetic and like stubbornness and like I don't know how to explain it, man. But at one point he even slipped all the way back to arrogant Brad, where he said a reporter called him before the draft, like
Bro, that was
asking
wild.
him.
That was wild. That was wild. I'm like, yeah, he called me and I'm like, you didn't call me on my birthday and you didn't ask how my family was during Christmas, but and I get it. I get it. It's not an NFL calendar day, but
Listen, there was some there were some good points that he made, and there were some bad things that we made. Now we're gonna break it down, but the main things that I took away from what he said was David Montgomery is pissed. He did not like the way that they handled him this season. And, and Brad was like, "My bad. I mean, we want you here. I mean, but if you feel like
dog,
you gotta go."
dog. Now you know my stance on David Montgomery this whole time, but the best thing I can ask you, if if Brad ain't got the answers and Dan ain't got the answers, who what Sheila said? like dog, if you want him to get the rock and Dan want him to get the rock, but he not getting the rock.
Your offensive coordinator got to handle that, and that's why offensive coordinator is so important. Also, in
John,
breaking news, the Dolphins fired their head coach, and
bro,
McCarthy is available.
John Morton was up in that booth playing solitaire. Okay, this is John Morton is gone. Don't bring that dead man into this conversation. If Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell can't get the rock to David Montgomery because John Morton, then we got bigger problems. Yeah, I think Demo's out of here. I I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. I think the best thing you ever said, one of the best things you said was the last time you saw a running back score a touchdown and run off the field was DeAndre Swift.
um, I don't. I think David Montgomery is is upset with how he was handled this year. I think that whether he leaves or not depends on what offensive coordinator they bring in and what assurances they make him.
Season. But look, bottom line is, for our standards, this was a disappointment. All right, when we set out for this journey for this season, it wasn't to match last year's record or exceed last year's record. It doesn't really matter what the record is. Bottom line is, if we're not in the dance and we're not competing for a championship, it's a failure.
So coming into this press conference, man, you talked about it on one of our videos, and we gave a pretty much breakdown of how we thought Brad was going to approach talking about this season. I went back and watched it, and you asked me what would he say about his first couple seasons? And I said, pretty much, you know, he gonna say that they was all success. And then you said, what do you think he gonna say about this season? I said he'd probably say it was a failure. And and that was like you said, man. I had my opinion, you had your opinion, and Brad was like, you know what, I'll take both of them. so,
Yeah.
so that was an example of him breaking down, you know, being honest that this season was a failure.
Well, like I said, man, he came in real apologetic. I think he was honest about the season. He was honest about you know how he felt he did on the season. It's just where it gets iffy is when people started going into detail and asked him, "Well, how are you going to fix it?" He was just like, explain what you mean by that." You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I feel like I said, man, the deep dive is where I'm interested
Actually,
to see.
this
So,
is his response to a question, and he's talking about how he's going to go about. You know, he said everything's on the table, especially after a season like this. You gotta look at everything, and this is what he says about player evaluation going forward.
But bottom line is we're gonna be examining look everything. I'm gonna be examining everything with those off season decisions and our processes. But nothing's going to change fundamentally or foundationally in terms of just the type of players that we're looking for and what our identity is built on. That's still going to remain the same, but you always have to evolve, man. You have to evolve, and when you don't get the desired results, you know, you got to just look at everything.
okay, so he did. I think he worded that wrong. I think he worded that wrong because what stands out is nothing is going to change. But what I think he meant by that is the type of player that they, the Dan Campbell guys, the football guys. That's what he meant. I don't. He did say they need to go into the deep dives and they do need to change their philosophies and how they do it. They have to evolve. But I think what he meant by that is the core of the person people they're looking for is not going to change. But he didn't word it good at all.
Interesting. Next up, we got this is they asked him about the trade deadlines. I don't know specifically, but this is in regards to the trade deadline and transactional activity. I like that phrase. He uses that phrase. Here we go, right here.
You know, we work very hard in terms of well, I guess I'll back up. I understand if you don't see a certain amount of let's call it transactional activity, and that's all you don't see. You don't see the result. You don't see another player added. You don't see the trade. You don't see the big splash signing. But our work ethic has always been high, and a lot of times, really all the time, is you have to put so much work into making sure that you don't make a mistake. Really, the easier thing to do is to see a name of interest that you've heard of, you think's been a good football player, and then you just make the call, make the move. And then you just didn't really put in all the time and efforts to find out, well, why this player is even available.
That one right there. Yeah. So what he said to me was that, you know, you don't want to just go out there and make a move to say you make a move. What's really important is that you do due diligence, essentially telling. He's basically, and this is a peek into the mind of Brad Holmes. Basically, you'd be better off telling yourself why that player would not work, opposed to going out there and getting that player. The idea that nobody sees the work that you put into it, Yeah, because like you said, there's no transactional activity, which means you did all this work and you didn't, nothing happened, you know, and like to say like you did something, it's like, I mean, there are bad GMs in the NFL, but like you're kind of implying that you are the only GM out here that's doing research, and everybody else is either just shooting from the hip. like isn't everybody doing their research?
Yeah, I got to call bullshit on that one, man. Brad Holmes, he's talking about all this hard work that they were doing behind the scenes, and I think he even said, well, I guess is he was saying that yeah, man, we make all these moves behind the scene, but I guess y'all wouldn't really know that because you know what I'm saying some of the stuff doesn't work out, and you wouldn't believe all the moves we tried to make, and it just didn't come to it just didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Well, you can say that, but yeah, we're not gonna know all the moves you tried to make because yeah, like you said, nothing happened, and you can say that all day long,
All day long.
but but the the what you presented to us was we're good. You know what I'm saying? I trust my guys, so yeah, if we don't see you making those moves or you don't come out and talk to us about the moves that you're making and let us know you're trying this, but you know what I'm saying this deal fell through just like today. Like some of the things he was saying was the right things, but he wasn't going into detail into what he was talking about. So if you're telling us that you're making all these moves, I mean, what it seems like to us is you're saying you're always telling us you're making these moves, but somehow it just never works out. But in the meantime, you're in our face telling us, well, the guys we got are good, so I don't know why y'all stressing about all these moves y'all want to make, and then you double down in this press conference and say, well, we're gonna make some moves. No, I understand the guys we got they did good, but I understand they're up for a contract. So we're gonna have to make some moves to replace them. But the moves that we make aren't gonna make the headlines. So essentially you kind of we what you present is that you might be making moves behind the curtain, but if it doesn't work out, you're not going the extra mile to make that thing happen. You're just like, whatever, our guys are good.
What it is like I feel like it's what I said. He is so calculated. He is so cautious. He is so concerned about cap and about money and everything that yeah, okay. You know, and he always says that. He always says, you know, when the time is if the time is right, we'll do it. If the player is right, we'll do it. He said I cut it off, but in that clip, he ended up saying, you know, it's not to say that they won't make a splash move. You know, all these things that he says, but the thing is, you know, he said you got to look at, you know, why is this player available? Well, it's like okay, and then if you just go out there and you grab the player because hey, we need a player, you know, it's like, but you signed DJ Reed to a 3-year contract, and based off of 1 year, you know, which might not be fair, but based on 1 year with the Lions, DJ Reed was not a good player to give a 3-year contract to, and you've had a handful of players that have played well for you and they had 1-year deals and you let them walk. So it's like yeah, you talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like that one.
Next up, this is you did like this one. This is a reporter called him and asked him about the trade deadline at the stage.
Ethic. Look, I think one of y'all called me at the trade deadline and asked me, did you talk to anybody? And I just kind of, I wasn't offended, but I think my response was, well, why are you asking me now? Because it's a NFL calendar item with a title on it. You know, you didn't ask me about if I talked to anybody early November or October or September or August or in June or in May. Like the roster building thing and engaging in talks with teams, that's year round. But I totally understand that that's not public information.
So Brad Holmes during this whole conference, right?
Hmm.
He talks about internally looking himself in the mirror, self-evaluation, which by the way is same thing Dan said, same thing Jared Goff said, same thing everybody in that room with Sheila says. But Brad Holmes is either super hard on himself or, to your point, Dan Campbell might have gotten his ass.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because he kind of, and it could be, hey, he's in front of the media. He knows they're going to grill him. And he's like, he doesn't really have a lot of ammunition this go round. So he's in a vulnerable spot. So maybe that's it. But I kind of feel like, you know, like you said, man, he's accepting that this season did not go how it was supposed to be planned. We visibly saw that Dan was very with the way this season went, and he, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel like
Th-
Dan might have talked to him.
This is what I'll say. The way he approached this, that especially with that scene right there, he kind of slipped into old Brad a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because that kind of came off as I mean, like, why would you ask me during the trade deadline if I made a call? I mean, that's my job. I mean, why wouldn't I make a call? You know what I'm saying? It kind of came off as the arrogant bro. I mean, the arrogant Brad is like, why would y'all keep asking me about this DN? He kind of slipped into it. Then he kind of caught himself. But this whole press conference is, yeah, like I said, man. So you talked all this stuff about how we were good, how you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You don't know why you keep asking me about how I'm doing stuff and all this stuff. And the season went horribly wrong. So now the pressure from the pressure from all the fans is you can't come out here and double down on what you were saying because the season went wrong and the fans know it and the fans are asking questions and the media knows it and the media is asking questions and Dan knows it because Dan in that press conference said the personnel wasn't right. We didn't have the tools that we needed, and we're gonna have to take a deep dive and figure out what we need to change. I'm sure Sheila knows it. I'm sure Sheila pulled him into the office and say, "Hey, what's going on? We need to figure this out." So Brad came into this press conference real apologetic because all those factors are saying, "Hey, you fucked up," and he kind of came into that meeting like a kid that just got into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And just got, you know, a parent just gave him a whooping or talked him down,
Mm-hmm.
and and he knows he has to correct it because if not, he's going to stay in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
He don't think he did anything wrong.
exactly, yeah.
Go in there and apologize. Go in there and apologize to your brother. I'm sorry, son of a bitch. Maybe where the season went off the rails. The season went off the rails in a few different ways this season. But one of the biggest things that a lot of fans hold against Brad Holmes is the trade deadline. And the question was brought up, you know, are you going to approach the team, um, trade deadline, free agency? We already know he's aggressive during the draft, but free agency and trade deadline and trades in general, are you going to approach those more aggressively?
Yeah, I don't know So you're saying just define aggressive.
When there's a need, don't just necessarily
You know
plug
what aggressive
with
mean.
the same guy that was there before, or maybe more aggressive trading up in the draft or trading or free agent signing. When the needs that are there before the season began are still there, and believe me, that doesn't happen every year. This was the first year, quote unquote, failure.
Yeah.
But this year, the needs didn't get fixed over the course of a year. Could you have been more proactive?
Well, I don't think it was a lack of effort. In terms of being aggressive, again, like I was saying earlier, I may have been telling John that like there's so many things that we try to do that just can't do. Like you mentioned the draft. I think I may have said it after the draft, this past draft, that yeah, you might see just the one or two or three actual draft trades that they were on record, they were consummated, they were done, but the attempts and the things that we tried to do, that's not public information. So just because you're trying to be aggressive and you're trying to trade way up, that doesn't mean that that team wants to trade way back, like how we've been picking in the past.
Yeah, so I mean that just goes back to what I was saying, man. Like I think one of the flaws that Brad Holmes have is he holds everything to the vest, man. If he was more transparent with the media, with the fan base about the things that he's trying to do, the things that he's trying to make moves, and just explain what his thought process is or what he's trying to do. I mean, I get that you don't want other teams to know what you're trying to do, but I mean, after the fact, you know what I'm saying, why not, tell us what, the things that you did. Why not let us know, saying, well, we did this, but that, what I'm saying, but this happened, what I'm saying? Why not share some of those details instead of just being like, well, I mean, if y'all only knew what I did, I ain't gonna tell y'all, but trust me, I was out there.
I was out there, man. I ran like 7 miles. I cleaned the whole house. Can we see the house? No, no, man. But trust me. I was in there. I was cleaning. This next clip, I don't know what it is. I just wrote down that to me, this is the epitome of Brad Holmes. I'm
Oh
excited to
wow.
listen. I'm excited to listen to it.
Reach, if we try to do the big trade or the big thing and it doesn't come about, then we're not just going to say, well, it's just another player that we're kind of warm on that we can get. I'm not sure how much going to help anymore, but it'll look like we're doing something, so we'll do it. I don't think that that's responsible either.
So that right there is just like a head scratcher, man. Basically, what he's saying is that we got people that we want. If we can't get those people, it doesn't make sense to him to go out there and get quote unquote the next best thing. But I feel like all of Brad Holmes' moves are going out there and getting the next best thing. Tyler Wheat, Tyrus Wheat, Tyler Lacey, Maddox, Rocky Asin, like what other team had these guys at the top of their charts? You had these guys at the top of your charts? Or were there better players at the top of your charts, but you couldn't get those players, so you went out there and got the next best thing? Like, come on, man. What?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Brad has I think he tries to pride himself on getting discount talent, and he's okay at it, man. He's okay at it, but he's okay at finding discount talent. But when your goal is the Super Bowl, discount talent isn't what you need.
This part was riveting. That's all I'll say. Brad, how would you grade yourself this season?
Oh, I mean, whatever's a failure. I mean, yeah, I guess F. I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'm not trying to copy what he said, but it was either good enough or not good enough, and it's not good enough. So, uh, if it's either pass and we're we're still playing right now and still competing for a championship, or not. And if we're not, then fail. So that's where I put it.
Pretty much everything we talked about in our podcast, bro. They addressed some form or fashion.
Yeah, man. Like Brad doesn't strike me as the type of guy that should just be like, you know what, man, I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Y'all right. You know what I'm saying? I fucked up. So what he did is what that sounded like to me was he know he fucked up. So, but when you ask somebody, like, if you ask somebody to be like, I'm sorry, or you know what I'm saying, or yeah, man, I messed up. You know what I'm saying? He seems strikes me as the type of person that'll say it, but not really say it. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, you fucked up on that part right there. I mean, yeah, man, I could have did better, and I could have did. Yeah, you fucked up, awesome, man. I mean, yeah, yeah. So that, so that's what you saying. You fucked up. I mean,
I mean,
kinda.
kind of. I cut it off, but he went on to say, I'm not gonna go like D minus or anything because I mean, we want to be technical. I mean, it was like a C. It was like a C minus, but no, I'm not gonna go there with you guys. Yeah, it was a failure because that's what you guys want to hear.
Yeah, yeah, that is how Dan handled it. But I don't do stuff like that.
My favorite, absolute favorite quote from Brad Holmes in his press conference.
It's a lot of different things, but I'm always going to start with myself first. It's after every single loss, that's the first thing that I'm looking. I'm not looking at oh, this happened, this ball didn't bounce this way, this that, and I'm like, man, are these players, like, are they performing well enough? And if they're not, then that falls on me, and I have to get better. So that's how I'm always going to look at it.
Brad, after every single loss, you are looking at yourself, and trust me, bro, after every single loss, I find myself looking at you as well. So with that, man, we are in complete agreement.
um, yeah, man. Like I said, I fully expect. This season was a failure. Uh, with everything that's being said tonight, man. If he has another season like he had this season, um, I'm not gonna say I don't think he can survive it, but it would put a really bad. It will put him in a really bad place, a really bad position. That he doesn't want to be in. Like a lot of people, even with all the mess ups that he's having now, a lot of people are giving him a lot of grace. And then if you ask most Detroit Lions fans, even though he's got all these mistakes and he's making all these comments and he's doing all these things that people are upset with, if you ask them, do you want Brad Holmes fired? A majority of people will say no. But if he has another season like this next year, people won't be saying no. People will be calling for his head, and I'm not sure that Sheila will do that next year if he has another bad season. But you can't have more than you can't keep having seasons like this in this supposed Super Bowl window that we're having. So another season like this next year will be a complete and total failure, especially in our window, and it may even close our window, which would which would if not put him on the hot seat, then actually I can't. I can't say that Sheila wouldn't have a choice but to start taking applications for somebody to replace him. So
Yeah, I'll take it a step further, man. If they miss the playoffs next year, then yeah, he should be fired. I'll be one of those people, and I'll take it. I'll go all the way and say yeah, he should be fired. But the one thing I will say is that based on the team that they have now, based on people coming back from injuries, and based on his resume, um, an average Brad Holmes season, and I don't want an average season. I want him to knock it out the park. I want Brian Branch, Laporta, Gibbs, and and Campbell. I want to draft like that. I want an off season with Carlton Davis and company. But that being said, with the schedule they got next year and everybody coming and the people that are coming back from injuries, bro, there's no reason that they should not be a playoff team next year. So I fully expect them to be right back in the playoffs next year. But yeah, if they were to miss the playoffs and this team looks like it does right now next year, then yeah, I'm calling for his head.
he was also asked about Kirby Joseph. And that was interesting, what he said about Kirby Joseph. All season long, we were wondering what was going on with Kirby Joseph. And he kind of answered that saying that Kirby really wanted to play. He passed all his physicals and all his eye tests and all the tests they ran on him at the beginning of the season, and they thought that he was going to be able to go. He was out there playing, and they thought that he was going to recover. But as the season went on, his injuries got worse and worse. And from him trying to get back on the field, instead of them resting him and just calling it the injury that it was, Kirby was trying his best to return for the season and help out the team. And for a second, it was working out. He was improving. Things were getting better, but I guess he overdid it, and it went the other way. So now he's confident that with the rest of him not trying to make it back on the field and rush his injury, that he will fully come out the other side okay. And based on that, you know what I'm saying, based on going forward, they will address the safety issue next year. What do you think about all that?
I heard it totally different. I heard it exactly how I always imagined it during the season, which was I was always under the impression that Kirby was done for the year. He kept trying to get out there. Every week it was, well, Kirby's practicing, he was on the practice field, but he's not playing this Sunday. And that was every week. And based on the reports of what his injury was, Kirby flat out told us, it's not something that you could get surgery on. It's in God's hands. He was in a bad spot. Everybody notes what a bad spot he was in. And based on what Brad said, basically it was like, yeah, they should have been put him on IR, but Kirby really wanted to get out there. So we left the window open and he kept trying to get out there, but he just couldn't do it. And now that the season's over, I'm glad that he'll have an opportunity to basically kind of do it the right way. And we'll go from there. And they asked him about perhaps drafting a safety. And he said, I don't know, but we're just going to treat it like every other position. And if there's a need, then we'll do it. But, I didn't walk away feeling like, yeah, Kirby's definitely back next year. In fact, I thought something that was more interesting than that was the reporter that asked him, like, y'all didn't, do you regret giving him the extension? He said, well, no, I don't regret giving him the extension. I don't think that was a miss on our part. And then he said, well, shouldn't you guys have kind of like did a deeper dive into his medicals? And he was like, well, in a perfect world, yes. Like, what?
Well, no, that's when he said he passed all the tests, all the physicals, everything that they gave him. they looked fine from the end. The reports that they
Well,
got back said it.
but see, that's different from in the perfect world. If everything came back clean, then you would have then I should say I would have said, well, no, everything came back clean. Everything that he went through, all of this occurred after we gave him the extension. But like, dog, Brad Holmes, unless he wins the Super Bowl, Brad Holmes will always be remembered as the one GM in the history of GMs that did not believe in two edge rushers.
What did you learn from your approach last year
Uh,
that can maybe help
really.
you find that guy to give you something opposite Aiden this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the same approach that we took last year in terms of the position wasn't ignored in the draft. It just didn't come together like how we would have liked it to be from a draft standpoint. But Muhammad played really, really well. I'm not sure how many other teams had, an 11 sack and a 14 and a half sack guy. I thought the rush was good, but I understand that he's a free agent. Davenport's free agent, so we definitely going to have to look and replenish opposite of Hutch for sure.
I mean,
So
he said but you know what? He used the word replenish. I don't like that word.
so listen, what what that took for me was that they asked him about did he learn anything, and he was kind of like, no, not really. I mean, we did have a 14 sack guy on the team. You know what I'm saying?
And
And I would
11.
and I would resign him, but he a free agent, so I'm gonna guess I'm gonna have to replace him.
What's up with David Montgomery?
Just from your perspective, do you expect David Montgomery to be here next year?
Yeah, look, obviously, I know that there was a tough year for him in terms of the lack of touches. And I'm not going to say that we went into it planning for it to be that way. I thought he handled it like a pro. And so, look, those are discussions that we're going to have a lot more in depth in terms of, like what is the best plan for him going forward? Is it somewhere else or whatever the case be? But just really appreciate everything that he has done for us. If it does end up going that way, I hope it doesn't, because we love David Montgomery. He's a good football player, and wish we would have been able to get more utilization from him. I know Dan feels the same way. But those are conversations that we're going to have because got a lot of respect for that player. He deserves to be in a situation where his skill set can be utilized. And so, we'll love it for it to be here. But if it can't be here, then you would have to just see which you can work out the best for him.
Real quick, completely random. But you ever just been talking to somebody and like y'all was just talking about the weather or something like that, and then all of a sudden he was like, "Yeah, it's a beautiful day, but my wife just left me. I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor. He said that I got to go get some tests. They saw something. I don't know what it is. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep on trying. I'm gonna keep on trying. You like, yeah, man. I was just asking about the weather, but hey, man, I hope it all works out for you. What the fuck?
Hey,
Brad looks like a broken man, bro.
That reporter threw that oop right up to Brad, man. All Brad had to do was catch it and slam it home. Yeah, man. Montgomery got another year on this contract. We love Montgomery, man. We'll do everything we can to bring him back here, man. Montgomery is our guy. But instead, Brad took that oop, looked the passer dead in the eye, and the reporter in the eye, and threw that ball out of bounds.
Yeah, no, I can't go there, man. I mean, when the guy is out here putting up cryptic Instagram posts after cryptic Instagram posts liking comments that say, "Hey, David Montgomery, I love you, but you need to demand a trade, bro, because they are not using you." Like, I mean, he could have, but he I can't even say he's been honest because this whole press conference has been so secretive. But one thing I will say is that I don't think he lied anywhere in this press conference. Now, he's talked out of both sides of his mouth, but he did try to give honest answers without saying that he fucked up, which was hard. And that's why he talked so much. but I don't think he lied. And everybody knows that David Montgomery is not happy here. So he could have, but I don't know what would that have gotten you. But yeah, and like I said, I agree with you. The Sonic and Knuckles thing was huge. Like, that thing was huge, and for them to just act like it never happened is odd. But they are sold. Last clip I got here, like I said, is my favorite clip, and Brad's been broken this whole conference, and this is the last speck of honesty that he gives before walking off.
I don't even need to hear that from her. You know, I'm the one that's on my mind constantly is, having the ability to put that trophy in her hands. So I don't sleep well at night unless that happens. And she's aware of that. But yeah, we've had conversations, and she's always, the great thing about her is she's always consistent. But
that's him talking to Sheila Ford. And if Sheila Ford talked to him after the season was over, the way he looks in his press conference, it's almost like she talked to him yesterday, and then Dan talked to him right before this press conference. Because like I said, this feels like a broken man.
Well, like I said, despite everything that we said, man, my main takeaway from this press conference is Brad saying that he needs to do a deep dive to figure out if his philosophies, if his strategies, figure out what went wrong, what he needs to do to change, what he needs to change, and when he said, we didn't play it, but he said that he doesn't know what the changes are until he does what changes he really needs to make until he does his deep dive, and he has to look deep in himself and figure out what changes need to be made. And if he knew the answers right now, then that would be a bad thing, because that would mean he didn't look deep. He didn't look deep. He just went onto the surface.
It's pretty simple, man. If he goes out this offseason and in free agency, he signs a center. Now, if he doesn't sign the best center, people will hold that against him. But he made an effort. We don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. He made an effort to go out there and sign a solid center. He went out there and did that. And then if he goes out, bases loaded, game on the line, bro, he will hit a grand slam if all he has to do with the 17th pick in the 2026-2027 NFL draft, go out there and draft the best edge rusher available. Bro, people will celebrate from the mountaintops. He drafted it. You would think that we made it to the Super Bowl if he drafts an edge rusher with the first with the first pick in the NFL draft, and he signs a center, and then everything else from there he's gonna do what Brad does. But these are non-negotiables. If you want to keep your job and you want to keep the vote of confidence from the fans of Detroit, those are two. The center's honestly going to be harder than the edge rusher, because I don't think the edge rushers are going to fly off the board like that. There's supposed to be a deep class of edge rushers in this draft, so he's got to go out there and get an edge rusher, got to go out there and get a center.
Detroit